Hi, my name's James Orange, and I am an ELT consultant for Oxford University Press. And I'm speaking to you from my house in La Coruña, here on the west coast of Spain, where, like many of you, I've been confined for the past few weeks due to the coronavirus. Well, I really hope that this message finds you, your family, and your friends well and healthy. This is a cultural bite video about London and forms part of a new series of presentations on different subjects for students of English available online from Oxford University Press. We've written this one for adults and young adults who have approximately a B2 level of English, but it can be used with other ages and levels as well. That's up to your teacher. And as this is a video, remember that you can pause it at any moment if I ask you a question and you need time to think, and you can repeat sections if you didn't understand anything. Okay, well, let's get started. So the title of this talk is Mind the Gap, and it's basically a talk about London, England's capital city. So where would you hear this phrase, mind the gap? Well, as you can see in the picture, you'd hear it in the underground or in the tube in London. And the phrase, mind the gap, was first used in 1968 at the Embankment Bank and Piccadilly Circus tube stations. And it was a recorded announcement basically to warn passengers of the space between the platform and the train, after it had basically become impractical for station attendants to warn all the passengers verbally. And these stations particularly are on a corner, and so there is slightly more space between the platform and the train. And ever since, it's become a famous tagline for the London Underground. Okay, well, here we've got a map of the British Isles, and to start off, we've got a series of numbers in red and a list of cities and countries on the top right. So I need you to tell me which number corresponds with which city or country. And of course, you can pause the video if you need to have a think. They're quite easy. Okay, so I'm sure you've had absolutely no problem with that at all. Of course, number 1 is Liverpool, number 2 is Scotland, number 3, Northern Ireland, number 4, London, number 5 is Ireland, and number 6, York, where I come from, and number 7, Wales. Okay, and in the next section, I want you to listen carefully because I'm going to ask you a series of questions afterwards. Okay, so obviously you can listen to this section again if you need to. So this is London, the capital city of the United Kingdom, with a population of roughly 8.7 million people who speak over 300 languages. Okay, so the River Thames divides the city into north and south and is crossed by many bridges. The one that you can see here in the foreground obviously is Tower Bridge, situated next to the Tower of London on the right. And to the right of the picture, you have the city over here. And the City of London is basically dominated by these huge skyscrapers, and this is the financial centre of London. In the past, the River Thames was also an important communication route. London was a very important port, and over here on the right, you have Canary Wharf, which was part of the busiest docks in the world, and the wharf was built basically for the fruit trade between the United Kingdom, the Mediterranean, and the Canary Islands. Okay, and then to the left of the picture, you have South London, and you have just here City Hall, which is the offices of the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, and just behind it you have the Shard, the tallest building in Europe currently. When you're in London, you'll always notice that there are always aeroplanes in the sky. There are basically 5 major airports in London, the largest of which is at Heathrow, where a plane lands or takes off every 45 seconds. And here in this picture you have the Palace of Westminster with the Houses of Parliament and the tower on the right, the Queen Elizabeth Tower, but popularly known as Big Ben.
Because of the congestion charge, very few people take private cars into the centre of London. Most people take public transport, and it costs about £13 or €14.50 a day to travel anywhere in London. And you can pay with a credit card or your old Oyster card. To get around, you can take the Tube, the oldest underground system in the world. The first line, the Metropolitan, opened in 1863 between Paddington and Farringdon, serving 6 stations. Now it has 402 kilometres of track, serving 270 stations, travelled by over 5 million people every day. And there's a new east-west line called Crossrail being built as we speak.
Double-decker buses are quite unusual, obviously, because they have these 2 floors. The early double-decker buses basically put the driver in a separate cab. So you can see that the older bus here is the bus on the right. And these buses actually had a platform at the rear, which the passengers could access. And if the bus had actually started, you could run behind the bus and jump onto this platform to get on. Eventually, obviously, this model was abandoned because of safety reasons, as there was a risk of passengers falling off the rear platform there. Another good way of getting around is a taxi if you're in a hurry or you've got money to spare. And the London Black Cab is an icon of the city. The first taxi licenses in London were issued in 1652. And these were originally called Hackney carriages because the village of Hackney supplied horses for the carriages in London that served as taxis. The car that they used for London cabs used to be the Austin FX4 that was produced from 1958 to 1997, and it could take up to 5 passengers in the back, 3 on the back seat and 2 on fold-down seats as well. Taxi drivers who drive the black cabs need to pass an exam called the Knowledge, which requires them to memorize over 25,000 streets within a 6-mile radius of Charing Cross. Black cabs are considered to be more reliable than Uber or minicabs, but they are definitely more expensive. Okay, so here's a beautiful picture of the London Eye at Christmas. They also celebrate New Year's Eve with fireworks at the London Eye. Okay, now here's the quiz. Basically, I'm going to ask a few questions about some of the information I've given you previously. So remember that you can pause the video after the question to think about it. So let's get started. So first question, what do Londoners call the Underground? It's the Tube. What's the name of the financial district in London? The City. What's the tallest building in Europe called? The Shard. What's the population of London, approximately? 8.7 million. What's the name of London's river? The Thames. And what's the name of the bridge next to the Tower of London? Tower Bridge. I'm sure you got those all correct. Okay, and here we've got a picture of the London Eye during the day. Can you just tell me how many capsules does the London Eye have? You can pause this to count. Okay, well, yes, it has. Let's have a look. There are 32. 32 capsules, but they're actually numbered 1 to 33, and this is because there is no number 13, which is considered unlucky. It's a very popular attraction, and so there's always a queue, even if you book online. But don't worry, the queue usually moves pretty quickly. So another question for you. How many people do you think can travel in each of these capsules? Again, you can pause the video if you want to try and calculate how many can get in there. Okay, and the answer is 25 people. So if there are, as we said before, 32 capsules, this means that there's about 800 people can travel on each journey of the London Eye. And as one journey lasts 30 minutes or half an hour, that means that in an hour you can have about 1,600 people travelling on the London Eye. The London Eye is open from 10 to 8:30 in the evening every day, so that's about 10 hours of functioning for about 10 hours, which means that at these rather expensive prices, you could probably get approximately 16,000 people traveling on the Eye each day. So they could probably make an income of about 400,000 euros a day. So if you consider that the actual cost of the London Eye, which was about 84 million, they probably recouped the total price or cost of the London Eye in about 6 months, which is pretty amazing. The City of London, or the financial centre, a window, and the building has 44 lifts which take you to its 72 different floors, which house offices, restaurants, and the Shangri-La Hotel, a luxury hotel with 202 rooms and an infinity pool on floor 52. And as we said before, at 310 meters, the Shard is the highest building in Europe. It's roughly the same height as the Eiffel Tower, but obviously shorter than the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, which measures about 828 meters. The £2 billion Shard has the best views in London, and it's pretty amazing. It's obviously very expensive to go up. It costs £32 for an adult, £21 for a child to go up to the viewing platform, which is reached by high-speed lifts, which will take you up there in about 60 seconds. And on a clear day, you can see for a distance of up to 60 kilometres and enjoy a 360-degree view of the capital skyline. And also up there, with the help of special telescopes, you can focus on London's landmarks and receive audio information about each one. Back in the city, some of the other buildings there have quite strange nicknames. A nickname is basically an alternative, often amusing name that have been given to either buildings or people. And in this case, this building has been called after a small green vegetable or plant related to the cucumber, which is often used for pickling. And you often find them in hamburgers as well. Can you guess where it is? Yes, it is the gherkin. And this one is named after a portable two-way radio system, otherwise known as a walkie-talkie. In fact, it has also been called the walkie-scorchy. Scorch means to burn, and this is because on sunny days, a design fault in the building itself has caused the curved face of the building to reflect the sunlight down onto the street as a hot ray, intense enough to melt the plastic on parked cars, or even hot enough to fry an egg on the pavement. And to solve the problem, architects have had to fit metal fins onto the outside of the building like an awning or a parasol to basically stop the rays from reaching the street. And at the top of the walkie-talkie, you will also find the Sky Garden. So here we are inside the Sky Garden. It's London's highest public garden, and its terraces are full of exotic flowers from the Mediterranean, from South Africa. And to enjoy a drink or some food with breathtaking views, the Sky Garden has a number of choices, such as the Sky Pod Bar. You've also got the elegant Fenchurch restaurant, or the Darwin restaurant with its nature-inspired decor and open-air terrace. Access to get up here is free, but it's really popular, so you need to book online at least 3 days in advance, as there are a limited number of tickets available for each day. Another iconic building in London is the Battersea Power Station to the south of the river, and this was responsible for generating most of the electricity for London for over 100 years. It's perhaps better known as it appeared on the cover of a Pink Floyd album called Animals, an album that had an inflatable pig flying over the towers of the power station. It's being completely refurbished, and it's being converted into a massive complex of shops, luxury flats, and will also house the headquarters of Apple in London as well in the future. It'll also have its own tube stop as well. And here you've got the Royal Albert Hall, which is on the edge of Hyde Park in Kensington, and which is one of the temples of British culture. Since it was opened by Queen Victoria in 1871, it's hosted some of the most notable events in our culture, in particular the Proms concerts each year, which have been held there every summer since 1941. It holds, in an average year, over 390 shows in the main auditorium, including classical concerts, rock and pop concerts as well, ballet, opera, film screenings, and awards ceremonies as well. And this road is also a cultural icon. This zebra crossing, or pedestrian crossing, became famous because it appeared on the record cover of one of the most famous pop groups of all time. Can you guess which group I'm talking about and the name of the road? Here's a clue. Of course, this is Abbey Road, and the four Beatles who crossed the road immortalized it when they appeared crossing the pedestrian crossing on the cover of their 1969 album. The story behind this was the original title of the album was going to be called Everest, after a brand of cigarettes that was smoked by one of the sound engineers in the sound studio, the recording studio that the band were using on Abbey Road, because the packet of cigarettes had a silhouette of Mount Everest on it, and the Beatles liked the picture. But the Beatles just didn't want to have to travel to Nepal for the photo, and so Paul McCartney suggested that they just went outside and took the photo crossing the road and gave the album the name of the street, Abbey Road. And if you want to visit Abbey Road, you should take the tube to St John's Wood, and there's even a webcam situated on the pedestrian crossing so that your friends back home can see you crossing the road.
And for those of you who enjoy shopping, I don't, but you can go to Oxford Street or to the largest and most luxurious department store in the UK. And this is its motto in Latin, which means all things for all people everywhere. Can you guess which shop this is talking about? Yes, you guessed it. It's Harrods, which was first opened over 170 years ago and is now owned by the state of Qatar. The store has 330 departments, over 5,000 staff, and up to 300,000 people Visit the shop every day.
It's not cheap. If you look at these prices, bar of soap can set you back as much as €51, and a teddy bear could cost you over €2,000. In fact, there's a quotation by Samuel Johnson, the author of the first English dictionary, that if you're tired of London, you're tired of life. So as you can see, and as I'm sure you can see from some of the pictures I've shown here, you won't get bored in London.
Well, on behalf of myself, James, and all my colleagues at Oxford, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this cultural bite, and goodbye for now. And in the meantime, stay home and stay safe.